And I love teaching. I've been a teacher now for 20 years, like on the nose. It's 21. I was in my credential program when 9/11 happened. That's how long I've been in the business. And I taught chemistry and biology for a very long time. And then I came to Fullerton in 2014. So I very much look forward to recruiting some of you or all of you to teaching because it's fun and it's rewarding and all those things. And to segue into, because I think I came in to teaching at an extremely difficult and political time. Like nothing about teaching for me has been apolitical since I've been in it. Like I said, I was a candidate like my second week in my credential program, 9/11 happened. So it's been encased in being hyper aware of the needs of children and hyper aware of what teaching, the benefits of teaching for our society is. So enacting is what I'm talking about today when I'm talking about teaching is justice work. So let me give you a little background about that. So teachers have a practice. We plan things and then we teach or enact something, a learning experience, and then we observe and interact with children and interpret and translate their responses to our teaching so that we can make them feel more like themselves um, after we've taught them. So when I'm talking about teaching is justice work, I'm talking about that in the moment exchange when we're cultivating conversations and handling children's minds as they're thinking and grappling. Part of teaching for justice work is to facilitate student epistemic agency. And I'm sure you're like, what the heck is that? What is epistemic agency? Well, it's the ability for a student in your subject matter, whether it be math or whether it be science or somewhere in between, to be able to make decisions about the subject that empower themselves. So not only do we give them a whole bunch of problems to solve, but we also give them the tools and the domain knowledge and the ability to be able to solve science and math problems in even when we're not there or even when the scenario or the experience doesn't lend itself to math or science, right? So for me as a scientist, COVID is a is a social justice issue, and the way I look at it, um, that is really annoying. um, the way I look at it, we are trying to close the health gaps that are occurring. I can look at that as a math problem, being able to read statistics, being able to understand the numbers, being able to understand efficacy rates for vaccines. And I can look at it as a scientist. So not only is it a health thing, but I can, as a the I can hear it as a health. I can see it as a health thing, but we want our kids to be able to see something that's important to them and be able to translate that to math and science. So that's what epistemic agency means. Um, Allow students to feel more like themselves than before they were taught means that we're not interested in deconstructing children. We're interested in building them up in their own self images. And then to develop and sustain communities of learners. So our classrooms and our labs become places where they build bonds with people and they learn and they co-construct and collaborate and have congeniality with each other. That's what that means. Next. Okay, so in order to teach for justice, teachers must first know themselves as cultural beings. Um, you must know what your superpower is if you're going to be in the Justice League, right? You just can't show up, without a costume and some sort of talent and weapon of justice. So you're going to have to figure out what your magical power is. And that's usually based in your family stories, your community stories, your cultural stories, your language stories. You're going to have to own your superpower. right? So I'm a part, if I was a Justice League person, I would be a superhuman Oprah, basically. So my hair would be done all the time and I'd have the best shoes. And my power would be to give everybody knowledge and a car. So that would be my Justice League power, right? If I were to be a part of the Justice League. But I know who I am as a person. I know what magical powers I bring. They're from my mom, my aunt, my grandparents, my uh, cultural linguistic beginnings in the South and being African American, the stories I tell and the analogies I use. So I know who I am and from whence I come, and I bring that totality to the table, and I employ every teacher to know what their social justice power is. Um, you got to learn your students and earn their trust. So once you get to know who you are, you're able to have the X-ray vision to be a part of the Justice League, to be able to see everybody else's superpower, right? And then you earn the kids' trust by giving them scenarios where they get to use their power. So you become like a Xavier, right? You become like a Dumbledore, or you become like, who's my dude from the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Gandalf, right? So there's a lot of analogies there. Or you could be the driver for Magic School Bus. It depends on how you see yourself, but there's always a leader in the room that's demonstrating their own power so that other people can use their powers. And then you create an emotionally and physically safe classroom um, for them to exercise uh, their gifts and their skills. And so if you do all of this, your teaching becomes justice work. I'm hoping that analogy helps, right? Social justice, Justice League. That is there. Next. So with this slide, we want to give you some insights into what teaching is all about, um, and hopefully inspire you to become a teacher. So let's look at the next slide. All right, here's the quiz. All right, which is the closest to the typical starting salary? Do we want to do a poll? Can we do a poll?
Oh,
They
well,
could put A, B, C, or D, or they could just use the chat. Maybe. What do you
yeah.
think is the salary? We could do this. We could do this. Look at you. This is awesome.
So let's
Right?
see. I don't know.
Starting
Poll.
salary.
Wow.
Yeah, it's too much work. They could just put their answer in the chat.
Yeah, just put in the chat.
Yeah, I didn't think about it when we were planning it.
That's all right.
Okay, so your starting salary could be A, 32,000, B, 39,000, C, 48,000, D, 57, or E, I can't see it anymore. All right.
Wow. Looks like a lot of B's and C's, I
Lots
see.
of B's and C's.
A few A's even.
Mm-hmm.
And a few D's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Okay.
So,
We'll let that one be. We'll let that be because there's a follow-up to that.
yes, there
That's
is.
beginning. That's beginning salary.
This is the beginning salary. Okay, so here's the mid-career salary choice. Is it after 15 years of teaching and earning a master's degree, which is the closest to the typical K through 12 teacher salary in Southern California? 48,000, 55,000, 67,000, 85,000, or 95,000.
Hmm. And wow.
Mid-career teaching salaries in Southern California typically range between $90,000 and $100,000. And because I just got out of the classroom recently, like the last 6 years, this is very true. I always tell people I took a pay cut to come to the university.
Yeah. Sad but true.
Sure, I took a pay cut to come. So,
So here are some district salaries. We actually looked these up on salary schedules. So these are publicly available. Every district is slightly different because they're negotiated with their teachers union. That's also something important to know, that California does have teacher unions. There are some states that do not, and you probably won't be surprised to know that those states teacher salaries are much lower, like half as much even. So be thankful if you're going to be teaching in California, be thankful that you're in a state that allows and supports labor unions. So you can see those salaries there. And if I could just say, these are 12-month salaries, meaning you're paid over 12 months, but you're only working 9 months, or 185 days is the typical public school calendar. So you have about 2.5 months where you can do other things. You can sleep, get caught up on your sleep. But you can also take on some other kinds of employment. You can spend time with family, friends, that sort of thing. And also, so if you wanted a true like full year salary, like a comparable job in a private company that you're working 12 months of the year, you would take that salary and multiply it by about 1 1/3, so 1.33.
Right.
And then benefits for teachers tend to be also quite good.
Yes.
So you add another 40 to 50% to account for your benefit package, meaning your health insurance, your leave time, and your retirement that they contribute to. So keep that in mind. Just if you're comparing to other pathways, it is good to remember that it's a 9 to 10 month job, and it has really good benefits.
And on top of that too, if you're really good at your job, meaning you know how to make great relationships with your kids and you really enjoy your subject matter, this is probably the most rewarding work that you'll ever do. I enjoy working at the university, I really do, but every time I'm on a campus, I miss being on a campus. Every time I see those teenagers ripping and running from class and teachers getting prepared to teach, I miss the vivaciousness and the closeness of that. Kids are really great people to be around, and they make you laugh, and they make you think. And so to get paid to do that work was very fulfilling for me. And I work for LAUSD, Los Angeles. And I picked a very urban school with very urban kids, and I had a ball and made some of the best friends of my life as my fellow teachers. So not to say that I don't like the people I work with now, but it was really fun.
I saw a question about K-12. I'm not sure. Is the question
Can you
about
explain the role of grade? Question refers to K through 12 grades, meaning the difference, how we cohort students along biological trajectory.
Or is it about pay? About pay?
Yeah, it is about the pay, because the question asks for the salary in K to 12 teachers.
Yeah, it's not. So if you went back 30 years, you would see big differences between elementary and secondary, and that's no longer the case.
Okay.
It was a gender bias, quite frankly. If you think about elementary teachers, there are more women teaching elementary school, at least historically in the United States, not in every country, but in the US. And so that it was a gender bias issue that, again, labor unions have addressed and have brought that up to parity. So the disparities are not big at all. In fact, some of these districts, like Santa Ana is a K-12 district, Corona Norco is a K through 12 district, Fresno Unified, ABC Unified,
Los Angeles,
Irvine. So a lot of, LA, right. So there is no difference in those K-12 districts.
The no difference is only in California, or is it across the country?
Well, again, in states that do not have labor unions representing teachers, you're going to get a huge difference in pay and in benefits, unfortunately. You might remember, like maybe 2 years ago, there were actually some teachers that walked off the job and threatened to sort of have a sick-in. So they couldn't officially strike because, again, some states don't permit labor unions, but they actually got their legislatures to commit more money, more resources to teachers because the salaries were so low. I'm talking like barely $30,000 in some states.
Right.
Okay.
So in California, that's not the case.
Thank you.
Did want to mention, this was touched on a little bit earlier, but opportunities to earn additional pay on top of that base salary. So there are things you can do during the school year, meaning having additional certification. If you're bilingual authorized, many school districts will pay you additional money. If you have national board certification, I believe Jairo is in that boat, right? That is an advanced certification for teachers who have at least 3 years experience and then go through a very rigorous review process. Many districts will pay you a stipend. If you're coaching, that's considered additional work. You have additional pay. Many teachers do tutoring after school, privately. They might be involved in some club activities that require a lot of time. Again, that's negotiated in the union contract. You would be paid. There are websites where you can share lesson ideas that you've developed and other teachers will pay you to get those lessons. And then there's summer jobs if you care to do that sort of thing. So I don't know if Jairo or Henry have any other things like that you want to add?
Yeah, for me, I just want to add that, you know, all these extra jobs are like after school, and sometimes they're even during the school hours. Sometimes you could like get the field trips and stuff to do some of these with some of these programs, being an advisor for some clubs, and it's all extra pay. And then one thing I really recommend is look at your contracts, look at the district contract, because you can determine later on, you know, whether it's going to be worth it for you or not. You know, because you don't want to be put into something that you're not comfortable with, especially if you don't think you're going to be getting paid enough to do. So something, and it's all available. It's all public knowledge. Everybody knows. You just have to look for it. So I highly recommend you do that. And a lot of them are worth it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to speak on the national board thing for LAUSD. You get nationally board certified in LAUSD, your salary increases 15%. So once you get that certificate, once you get certificated, you get the bump, the national board bump there. And any kinds of, well, when you get a stipend for your master's, I got a doctorate, that's why I came up from San Diego to teach. And they give you a stipend for having your further education as well. So not only do you get the pay bump, but they add an extra token of appreciation for you being like literate and competent, which is fun. This was Henry. Can you help us out with Rate Your Life?
Yeah, sure. So I want you guys to spend maybe the next couple of seconds, or not seconds, let's say a minute, to think about in the next 5 years on this ladder of being 0, the worst possible life, and then 10 being the best possible life. Where do you think you're going to be sitting on this ladder? I want you guys to think and reflect a little bit. So let's set up a timer for 45 seconds. So some 5s and 6s. Where do you guys think the teachers land on the spectrum? Do you think they're in the middle as well, or do you think they're above or lower? 7? Above? With an exclamation point. Molly's excited. Think above. Rachel's excited too. 7. All right, can we go to the next slide? There you go. So the next slide shows about 172,000 US workers were polled this question, and the responses were that they were ordered by professions, and then which people rated like which like their professions were rated basically. And they found that teachers rate their lives better than all of the groups, trailing only physicians. So physicians are the only ones that kind of beat us out. So that's pretty interesting, right? That teachers rate themselves very, very high on that scale.
Why do you think teachers rate their lives so highly compared to other professionals? And I'm a teacher. I can tell you why. But why do you all think? You can put it in the chat too. Share your ideas. Purpose. Anybody else? Personal fulfillment. They're compassionate. Yeah, absolutely.
No one's mentioning summers off.
No one's mentioning summers.
No one's mentioning that the summers you get off.
Right. And winters. Yeah. I personally enjoy kids thinking that when they walk into a biology classroom right out of middle school, because I always got the freshmen, and they're going, this is going to be super hard. And by like November, they got a rhythm, and by April, they're teaching other people biology. That to me was the will that kept me going all year. Like, you're gonna feel so smart after this. It's gonna be great. So the day-to-day satisfaction, student relationships and learning, the work schedule. I can't stress enough that I was a green LA person. Like I never thought I'd live in Los Angeles ever. Being from Louisville, Kentucky, it blew my mind that I was moving to LA to to teach and go to school. And the people that I met and that I worked with are some of the best friends I've ever had. Like it's what keeps me afloat through COVID, like the bonds that I have with these people that I worked with for the last 13 years. Teaching makes you smarter. You think you know your subject now. Once you start teaching it and planning it, you know your stuff, right? And the kids appreciate how much work you put into making it knowledgeable, and constructing learning experiences for them. And then running my own lab, ordering my stuff, making sure that I was OSHA ready, making sure I was fire marshal ready. I took a lot of pride in having a very functional, 5-star lab where I could run biochemistry, and I had micropipettes and a microscope for every other student, and water baths and scales. So as a science teacher, I thoroughly enjoy being able to expose my students to authentic science and run my own lab. And my department we were always the prestigious team because we were lab coats, and, that science crew or that math crew, we kind of have the esteem of our colleagues because everybody else thinks our subjects are hard too. Other teachers do. So let's see. Hold up. What slide is this? We had it organized. I think that's me too. California teacher diversity. What do you notice about teacher to student diversity? So the dark blue is the teacher population, and the sea foam green on my screen is the student population. So what do you notice? You can put it in the chat, or you can undo your mic. Anybody notice a trend? Math and science people? Yeah, okay, definitely not enough teachers of color. Almost every race is underrepresented in teachers. And it's asymmetrically distributed. Absolutely, yes. the graph, absolutely. Even the categories, they could have did the categories in alphabetical, but I think they wanted it to be dramatic. So for one, in California, we're a very diverse state. We're very multilingual, multi-ethnic state. The vast majority of our teachers are over 60, roughly maybe 62, 63% of our teachers are white or of European descent. The vast majority of our, over 50% of our students though, are kids of color, right? So where do teachers come from? What do you wonder? If we are graduating lots of different kinds of students and they're going to college, why is it that we're only attracting so very few diverse teachers? It's something to think about. I don't particularly have any answers to this. I have some hypotheses myself. One, one of my hypotheses is that we have to make the learning experience for K through 12 students enjoyable. If we scared them and victimized them and traumatized them in K through 12, they don't want to come back. That's one, right? So we have to make it so that the only people who are enjoying the K through 12 experience aren't just our white students, right? We also have to present teaching as a profession. Like we do a lot of good teaching, but towards the end of my classroom experience, I was starting to explain to students the pedagogical knowledge that I was using in order to plan and teach them so that they understood that not only am I teaching them biology and chemistry, but I have a whole nother set of knowledge skills that I have to use as a professional teacher. I'm just not coming up here and making it up, right? That I have a specialized knowledge and that I spent my career and I went to school to learn this. This is a career choice. If you don't want to be a lab scientist, or if you want to run your own lab, but you don't want to have to get a PhD and become a PI and write grants for it, you know, teaching is a wonderful way of doing that as well. All students benefit from a racially diverse teaching force. We tend to feel hard to staff schools because I come from the schools that I used to teach at. So I actually have, we all have experiences being people of color. We have experiences as students of color in these spaces. And so a lot of the mythology isn't there. We tend to understand how to relate the subject matter to students so it boosts their academic performance. I guess studies have shown that kids, their attendance rate improves with a diverse teaching staff. We influence the school climate. We improve student satisfaction and we offer benefits to all students. We're good at that. Next slide. So let's meet a math teacher.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jairo Aguayo. I've been teaching for quite some years. And with that experience, I've been able to get my master's in math. I've been able to get my my national board certification, and I am currently the math department chair at my school site as well. And I am part of the CSUF Admala project, which has helped me achieve a lot of these goals by providing me some training and some partnership with other teachers across the districts and other districts that we've been able to work with each other to help each other grow as leaders at our sites. So to tell you about my journey as being a teacher, I never thought, honestly, when I started, I would ever do anything outside of my classroom. I always thought I would be doing all my math inside the classroom, and that would be it. But you know, we are actually more than that, and we can become more than just a teacher in the classroom for our students. And the thing that I've grown as a teacher in my classroom is, you know, I've always like thought like I would be teaching students how to do math and telling them how to do math, and students will be telling me how they're doing their math. But I've gone to now, I want students to tell each other how they're doing the math. And I think that's really helped them a lot. And I've had a lot of success with students working together collaboratively to learn mathematics with me facilitating the conversations. So that's something that I strongly encourage you to strive for, is to help your students be able to teach each other what they're learning, and it's something a lot of schools and districts are looking for as well. So it's the new way. I know when I was learning math, I was always just told what the math is. Very little collaboration with my classmates, but but things have changed. Things have changed, and when I got to college, there was a lot more collaboration with students, and I was learning so much more that way. So I know it works. Works a lot better. Next slide, please. So with the help of Amala project that I'm in, I've been able to learn ways and gather ideas of how to get students involved outside of the classroom. And one example that I have here, and I continue to like increase the amount of involvement my students have in their community and the impact they could have in their community, is just to get them involved, you know, in things that could affect them or their neighborhoods. So one example I'd like to share with you is we did a park cleanup in one of their local parks, and they chose, they're the ones that chose to do this, and I made it meaningful by I don't know, I just got a map of the park and put it in a grid, and we did some mathematics to like figure out where they'd found trash and what kind of trash was collected, and we like talked about it and compared our maps in different groups that collected trash in areas. And we found that, you know, one of the things that was very overwhelming was the number of cigarette butts that were found near areas where kids are mostly at, like near the playgrounds or near the dugouts of the baseball fields. And there was like no signs of like no smoking. And there was only one sign, like when you enter the park, is saying, you know, drug-free zone, don't have anything. So what students got involved and started and wrote letters to their city council to improve the signage at their local park. So I think that was pretty cool that they actually made an impact in their community. And it was all them. Like, I didn't write the letters, they did it, you know? And it's very cool. And that's something that you guys can do, you know? You can involve your content, whatever you're in, and have them make an impact in their community. I know science, I've seen some projects in science where they do stuff in their community, you know, with like checking the water in their drinking fountains. I've heard some people at different schools, like in Anaheim High School, they did that, and it's a pretty cool thing. And then you can bring it to your school board too. Like, you as a teacher, you are a leader. You know, you make an impact in your community, at your school, and that's something that you should keep in mind as you're being a teacher in the classroom, and something that you can grow into. So that's what I've been doing with me in my classroom, moving to the students and making impacts in the community. And other things that I've also like to do is make impacts for my students that will better them, and also get rid of these barriers that that have been in the system of education, that, you know, they may not be observable, or maybe people are just not looking, right? Whether it's intentional or unintentional, things are happening. And I remember I bring up my experiences of like how I went through them as I was a kid learning, and I use those to make impacts in my class and my school site, especially like one of the things that I'm working on right now that I've started already last school year was increase the representation of Latinx students at my school site, because for some reason, even though about 75% of the population of my school site is Latinx, about 75% of students who are in the honors pathway, by the time they get to AP Calculus or even pre-calc honors, like before they get to last class, 75% of them are not Latinx. They're mostly white or Asian. And I wonder, like, what's going on here? What is happening early on in the years? So like, I just like gather data. I look at what are the feeder schools are doing to increase or encourage students to go into the honors pathways. Like, what are we doing at our school site? Like, I start asking questions and ask questions, you know, to learn about it, so that we can see, like, are we intentionally doing it? Are we not aware that this is happening? You know, is somebody doing it on purpose? That'd be really bad. So, and it just, and a lot of it is just like, nobody is aware. Nobody has looked into it. Nobody has even bothered to consider it, because I don't know if the data is not there, people are not collecting it. But, you know, that's what I noticed, and that's what I started investigating, and that's what I started to try to do something about it, right? And that's where I like, what can I do, right? And I just partnered with the feeder school, and I asked them, hey, what are you doing, and what can we do together to get more students into the honors pathways? And, you know, a lot of it is like just that they're unaware. You know, sometimes we're disconnected. And, you know, once I explained to the feeder schools, like, how they navigate through the honors pathways or not, you know, they didn't understand that. They didn't know. So a lot of it is just like not knowing, and just making people aware of this is happening is huge. So that's something to look to keep your eyes open for things that may or may not be intentional, things that you may or may not see. You know, one great example that I've always been told in the past is like, you know, why do grocery stores have ramps to their or handicap access, right? Like, you don't even notice that when you're going to your grocery store, right? If there is one available or not, right? But as soon as you break your leg and you need to be able to access that grocery store, you're definitely going to notice that you need a ramp to get in there to do your shopping. So those are the kind of things that I look for, and I want to make an impact for my students, so that they're not being left behind or put in a bad spot because somebody wasn't aware that it was happening. So that's me. That's my journey so far.
Cool. Thank you, Jairo. I appreciate you sharing that. And I just want to point out that you've had, it's over 100 students that you were able to identify who actually met the criteria to be in the honors math class in 9th grade, who are all Latinx students, right? They would not have been in that class had you not taken the time to actually look at data from their transcripts, from their state assessment results, and advocate for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, for me, the really critical part. It's not just sit and wait for something to happen and sort of, you know, wonder why this doesn't change. You actually took action, yep. Right? and got access to the data and then advocated, and it didn't happen overnight, right? You had to advocate and you had to have like several meetings with administration in order to convince folks that this needed to change. And
Yes.
I just want to say thank you for doing that. And that's, you know, 3 or 4 sections of kids that are now in that pathway that would not have otherwise had that opportunity. So thank you for that work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely. So again, you know, a good teacher can inspire the mind, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning, and can open doors, right? We'll add that to this little poster. So you think about this, you know, behind every advance in whatever field, medicine, technology, is a teacher who made an impact, right? A teacher who left an impression. So I'm going to let Dr. Linton introduce a teacher from her program.
Right. Oh, and I'm going to segue with one of my mentors says, teaching is the parent of all professions. So you can't be whoever you are without having gone through a teacher or a series of teachers first. So it's exceptionally important what we do. But here's one of my favorite people, Henry Chi. He was in my secondary science program, and he was one of my candidates who got my kookiness and my particular brand of science teaching from the start. So I knew no teacher is supposed to have a favorite, or if you have a favorite, you're not supposed to let the kids know.
Well, thank you for introducing me. Thank you. So I recently got my credentials in January 2020. So I guess I finished the program in December of 2019. But I guess we should backtrack a little bit. My name is Henry Chi. This is my first school year teaching as a school teacher. I put a little picture up of me when I was doing my student teaching. It was at South Junior High in Anaheim Union. So if you guys ever been around there, we did a color run event and we were just having fun that day. But as far as my current position right now, so the great part about teaching is that it doesn't always have to be necessarily just a classroom teacher, right? I am a science itinerant teacher. What does that mean? That means I go from school to school and I teach different classes, different times of the day, and I travel all over the place. So you can think of it as like a teacher on site specialist or something like that. So I go to Juniper, Dolores Huerta Academy, North Cameron, Palmetto, Kathy Bing. So at each of these schools, I work with like 4 to 6 different other types of teachers. And that includes special ed, that includes inclusion classes with special ed and also gen ed classes together. And I'm there just to teach fun science and, you know, get the kids amped up about science. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here is my journey. This is my second career. This isn't my first choice. And how did I get there? So I started off as civil engineering. I graduated back in like 2011. So I'm kind of aging myself here, but I was a civil engineer and I worked for Edison, maybe my junior year of college. And I worked in the IT/engineering department. And I worked there for a couple of years, maybe 5 to 6 years before I decided to call it quits, because it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, or it wasn't fun. And the reason why I'm, I guess, sharing this with you guys is to let you guys know that, like, it's okay to have a second career. It's okay to pursue something and then go, that's not something I want to do, right? And I ultimately ended up finding my place in Cal State Fullerton education. So what got me into education was remembering like my physics teacher actually from high school. And he was always like a mentor to me. He told me to do this and that and guided me basically through college. And it made me think, I'm like, hey, that's actually really cool. I want to do something like that. So I just took a blind shot. I looked into Cal State Fullerton and I looked at the requirements, got enrolled, took my first class, and then everything was history. I ended up getting like a tutoring job at the same place I did my student teaching. And ever since then, I was like, this is what I need to do. This is my calling. I need to be a teacher because it's so much fun. It's so much what I wanted to do. So in 2017, that's when I started my journey. You guys can see, this is our little teacher cohort that I did outside of teaching. This is when we were mentor teachers to kind of like students like you guys, when they're trying to wonder if they're going to be a teacher or not. We're trying to mentor them, and we're trying to do our sorority poses, and I kind of failed at it. It wasn't that great. Next slide, please. So this slide, you'll commonly get asked this a lot about your why. Why are you a teacher? Why do you want to do this? So I'm gonna break it down. For my whys, a lot of it has to be doing with the kiddos growing up, the students. I've already experienced it when I was doing my student teaching. So student teaching was like about a year and a half ago to 2 years. I still keep in contact with them, like a couple of them. They come back and visit. I say hi to them. I get to see them grow, and I kind of tutor them with math sometimes or science if they're having trouble. I haven't had the ability to have college students come back yet, but my master teacher actually has had college students come back. And it's such a rewarding kind of feeling knowing that this person you've known for X amount of years has now graduated, has been incorporated into society, and now coming back to visit you, meaning that you've had such an impression on that student's life. So that breaks down to the next point, which is you're basically a social influencer when you're a teacher, whether you like it or not. If you're shy, I'm super shy. When you're shy, it's hard. And that was a really, really hard thing for me to get over. But I've been in the education limelight for almost 4 years now, and it's basically like a theater show. You're the center of attention, right? And I've learned so much useless pop culture from the kids about like TikTok and stuff. But that's the other positive thing, right? Since they teach you that kind of stuff, you get to also kind of teach them, like I tell them about some of the K-pop I listen to, some of the animes I watch, and you'll have those genuine connections to the students. And I had one of my kids from it was like, so when I was doing my long-term subbing before I got my teaching job, one of the kids was super, super quiet, didn't say much. And randomly, because I like blasting music when the kids come into the classroom before, just get the hype up. And I was blasting like a K-pop song. And then she didn't say anything all year. And then this year, she talked to one of the science teachers I know at my old site to say, where's Mr. Chi? And I want to thank him for, doing that, because she really liked K-pop. So I was like, the little subtle things you do will impact the kids. And I think that's such a wonderful thing, because that goes on to the next point of making changes, right? We saw what happened last year. There was so much systemic problems that started to arise. And we have to understand that education is king. We need to be the proprietors of that and kind of voice that opinion out there for those kids. Relatively an outlook. So a lot of the times we're gonna get the most common question, Mr. G, why are we learning this? Especially in math, right? Are we ever gonna use this? We have to understand that education and learning has come from, and I got this from Dr. Linton, she could vouch it. We came from this long lineage of shamans and elders, and having us kind of mentor these younger students to become the elders in the future. So we need to have teaching points to be relative to those students. If it's obscure, if it's something that doesn't make any sense to them, they're not going to care for it, right? So I think that's a really good point on why teachers need to have that relativity to them. And the very last one is the Socratic method. So what is the Socratic method? It's critical thinking, questioning stuff. So I grew up with NCLB, No Child Left Behind. That was when 9/11 happened and all that stuff. A lot of the things that they pushed was multiple choice, Scantron. I'm pretty sure you guys have been through all that. It's not fun, right? I like to call it the Scantron overlords, but this doesn't help people become innovative. It's one of the most stifling things onto a student, because they can't really express themselves. So hopefully I can inspire the next Elon Musk, the next Steve Jobs. And I always tell the kids when they graduate and become famous, whether it's in science or they're a movie star, to come back and visit and buy me a new car, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But it's one thing that I always tell my little kids, hey, you guys can come back and buy me that new car, new house. Next slide, okay. Becoming the best me. So as we were talking about everything beforehand, education has definitely changed my life as far as the teaching portion. When I was working at Edison, I wasn't waking up happy. When you wake up and you gotta go to class, and you're like, don't want to go, not really happy. 99% of the time, it's usually I wake up, I want to go see the kids, I want to greet my kids, I want to see their faces, right? Because every single day is a new day, right? One day that kid could hate you, the next day to be high-fiving you, hey, what's up? That's one of the best things to have. Learning, and I've learned so much about myself in the last 4 years. And that's crazy, because I've had 30 years to know myself. But within the last 4 years, I found out who I really am, who I truly can be. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you could get out of education, is that you do a lot of self-reflecting when you're an educator. being mentored and being a mentor to people. So I keep in contact with Dr. Linton, keep in contact with a master teacher. You know, they're great resources, and they're basically going to be there, or hopefully for the rest of your life, to mentor you and guide you with your life. And we do the same for the kids. And the very last one will be like adapting to difficult and life-changing situations. So as an educator, you're also a mandated reporter. So a lot of the things that do come by are, I've had some really harsh things come by, and it makes you realize that these children, you know, they go through a lot of stuff, and that makes you stronger as a person because you help them with it, and they'll remember that because they know you're basically there for them. Yeah, and that's basically why I became a teacher.
Yep. I wrote in the chat, mentorship is one of the membership privileges when you join the Justice League. There's always a teacher out there who's willing to take you under their wing, even if they weren't in your trajectory. Like, I love the fact that my department chair, when I first got my first teaching gig, was a mentor to me, even though, you know, I didn't meet him until after my credential program. So that comes with membership to the Justice League. So where can you learn more about becoming a math science teacher? Mark?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to real quickly share with you about this. So the Math Science Teacher Initiative at Cal State Fullerton, we are funded by the state. And this funding is for us to reach out to all of our students to have them get information and also support for becoming teachers of math and science. So please check out our website. Just a couple of things I want to throw at you, just if you're not aware. There are some really good student loan forgiveness programs for people who become teachers in high need subject areas, of which math and science are definitely high need subject areas all the time. So there's a couple links in the slides here to that if you want to know more about it. There's also a federal program called TEACH. It's an acronym. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but the T I'm pretty sure is teacher. And so they'll give you up to $4,000 a year for your undergraduate and or your post-bac. So teaching credential in the CSU is post-baccalaureate, so 1 year post-bac. They'll give you up to $4,000 a year. No need to pay it back as long as you go into teaching math or science in a high need subject area, or you go teach in a high need school district. So those are a couple programs that's important that you know about. We do have, as I'm sure you know, a financial aid office at Cal State Fullerton. You can learn all about some of their programs at their website. The MSTI program, we have scholarships as well. Last year, we awarded $53,000 in scholarships.
Nice.
Yeah, and we're hoping to do the same this year, if not more. So please do apply. We're trying to give out those awards to people who are on track to become teachers of math and science, or if they're already in the credential program. So check out our scholarships page. Did you know you can get a job almost anywhere as a teacher, particularly math and science? It's a very portable profession. That's just a little tidbit. Summary of the teacher benefits. We mentioned these earlier. They rate their lives better than all other occupation groups other than physicians. The starting pay is $57,000 plus for a 9-month salary plus full benefits. Mid-career is pushing 6 figures. It is 6 figures in many of our local districts. You can retire at age 60 with a full pension. By that, I mean, you're getting as a pension monthly payment as much as 70 to 80% of your annual salary. You will retain that. And that's a benefit also of the teaching profession. There are student loan forgiveness programs and scholarships. The job is very portable, and we need you, right? Especially teachers of color. We need you in the profession because the young people in our schools want to see folks who look like them and have you there to support them as they grow up, as Henry and Jairo so eloquently shared with us today. Dr. Linton is in charge of one of our MSTI programs, the Math Science Ambassadors. She sends folks out to do tutoring in of local school kids with the Center for Healthy Neighborhoods.
Yes.
Now, of course, now it's all virtual, But when we're back face to face, it's downtown Fullerton. It
Mhm.
serves the community around there, and that's a wonderful program. So you could check that out. We're always taking
Please check that
applications.
out.
Please.
We need more people.
There you go. Yeah. And so
Now.
even though it's online, right? It's still running, right?
Yeah, it's still running. It's still
Yeah.
$15 an hour. We need more people, and we need more people now.
Awesome. We have summer internships at local informal science learning centers like the Discovery Cube, Newport Back Bay, Ocean Institute, and our own Fullerton Arboretum on campus. So if you're interested in that, please check out the PRISE Internship program that Dr. Grant, one of our colleagues, runs. It's a wonderful opportunity. You basically help them create curriculum materials for young people that come into their centers to learn about science. So they're looking for folks that bring some fresh ideas, some good energy. And then one of our newest programs this year is a cohort of future teachers of color who are in math or science. And Dr. Pham and Dr. Scott are two of our colleagues who coordinate that. If you're interested in learning about that, please email them. They have about 22, I think, folks right now. They still have more room if you're interested. They meet monthly. There is a scholarship involved and some incredible mentoring, I'll say. So I do want to thank you for your time today. I've dropped the slides I'll put into the chat, but really important, there's an exit survey that we really need you to fill out because we want your feedback. As I think it was Henry was saying, teaching is also about learning. We are also educators, Dr. Linton and I. We want to learn from you. How did this go? What was useful? What could be more useful? What did you like? What did you think we needed not so much of? So please give us feedback. We really do appreciate it. The slides PDF are here and the links in the PDF should work. So I just dropped that in the chat. And if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me as the MSTI director. I'm always on email. And Dr. Linton as our science